FTX's competitor Binance might be an FTX Part 2. Their CEO CZ cannot bring himself to promise the existence of $2.1 billion lent to him by FTX. After promising Bloomberg for an interview, all of a sudden his entire office in Dubai has COVID. In his CNBC interview, he was asked much tougher questions than SBF was ever asked, which means that lying was multiple times harder. There is a bunch of financial terms being thrown around, and I'm here to break them down. Okay, I'll stop with the noises now.
I saw that you said on an AMA, this is one of these Ask Me Anything, you said there's no amount of withdrawals that would put us under any pressure. But that, I think, is a very bold statement.
No amount of withdrawals that will put us under any pressure is a seriously bold statement by CZ, because that implies he is promising 100% liquidity. Think of liquidity as the ability to move cash. The sooner you can transfer cash, the more liquid the asset is. An investment is less liquid than cash and cash checks because you have to sell the investment in order to turn it into cash. Unless the person you're trading with will take the investment as a payment instead. But you get the idea. The sooner you can turn it into cash, the more liquid it is.
To be making, how are people and why should people trust that their money is safe at this point?
So I think thanks, Andrew, for having me. And the well-run crypto exchanges should hold user assets one-to-one. So user deposit Bitcoin, we hold it in Bitcoin, we move to a cold wallet, we keep some in the hot wallet.
Assets are items of value that are possessed by the company. When we say client assets, it refers to the funds sent in by the customers, but really owed back to them. It's just the firm that is holding them for the time being. So it is their asset that they promise liquidity on, which is what these finance gurus mean by one-to-one. We have your money, but you could have it back at any time. That also implies that their money is very safe. Someone says they're very liquid, it means that their assets are one-to-one, which means that your money isn't being played with. Good news, right?
And people, they sell it. Now the Bitcoin belongs to somebody else, but we still hold it in the cold storage. People can withdraw 100% of the assets they have on Binance. We will not have an issue in any given day. So 100% of the users withdraw 100% of the assets, we'll be fine. This is very different for traditional financial people to understand, because banks run on fractional reserves.
Fractional reserves is when a fraction of your money is being held safely and portions of it is being lent to borrowers. Those lent out portions are owed right back to where they came from plus interest. Let's go over how banks generally make money. I give the bank $100. They give you $30 out of that 100 on January 1st. The bank now tells you to pay them back that 30 at a rate of 10% per year. You pay them back $31.50 at the end of June. The bank still owes me the 100 back, but that's fine by them because that 100 is now $101.50. I walk away with the 100, they keep the $1.50. This happens on a massive scale.
And the traditional regulators, many of them may think that it's okay for crypto businesses to be running on fractional reserves. That is not okay. In crypto, there's no central bank printing money to bail out banks when there's a liquidity crunch. So crypto businesses have to hold user assets one-to-one. And that's what we do. It's very simple.
CZ is mentioning banks here because, according to him, he doesn't lend out client assets for his own benefit, which means that if every single last person were to withdraw from Binance, there wouldn't be any issues because he is holding their money exactly how he promised he would.
Okay, but let me ask you about that specifically, and I don't want to get too technical, but indulge me for a moment. When you had what seemed to be liquidity issues around customers wanting USDC, it looked, at least from this vantage point, that what was happening here could have been avoided if, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, you allowed customers to deposit and hold USDC instead of what it looked like was that you auto-converted them into your own exchange dollar. Am I wrong?
Andrew Sorkin is asking him, if you were always 100% liquid, why was there ever a liquidity issue in the first place? It seems as if at the time of the withdrawal requests, customer assets were converted into something else.
So that day, we had more users trying to buy or trying to deposit BUSD and withdrawing USDC. And we ran out of that. And the bank that does the conversion doesn't open until 6 hours later. And that's a bank in New York. So we were actually blocked. This issue was actually caused by a bank. So That's what, and stable coin is the only one we convert. Every other asset, people deposit Bitcoin, we hold Bitcoin. People deposit.
It took him an entire 80 seconds of mentioning a bunch of different currencies before he finally blamed the issue on another bank, like someone we know. But then that just raises the obvious question, you know? If you are always 100% liquid, why was customer assets ever tied up with a bank in the first place?
Right.
And
you understand why I'm asking that question, because it does appear in that instance, at least, that when you said no amount of withdrawals would put you under pressure, by default, it put you under pressure.
If there's no use of customer assets, then where the hell were they at the time of the liquidity crisis that happened very briefly?
Whether it was you're doing or some other bank's doing. And so the question is, longer term, would you reevaluate how you do that?
Andrew is basically just giving CZ a chance to say he'll behave himself this time.
So we have the assets to convert. So there's no margin, no leverage.
Margin is money lent to you to trade with, which can be ridiculously risky. Margins can multiply your gains or losses. If I lend you $100 to invest with, and you already had $100, you now have $200. If stocks drop by 50%, you have nothing left. Why? Because now you only have $100 left, but you still owe me that amount. If stocks increase by 50%, you get to keep the 300 minus the 100 you owe me, which is a reward of $200, instead of the total of 150 that you would have earned without margin. If I have a leverage ratio of 1 to 10, I can trade $10 as if I was trading 100.
We just needed the bank to open. So the bank opened 6 hours later, it was fine. So banks don't work for 24 hours a day. Banks only work for a few hours a day. And when you try to, and when banks are shut down, when banks are closed, you try to withdraw money, it doesn't work. That's exactly the same situation that happened.
Anyways, CZ has a ton of explaining to do here. If you are waiting for whatever bank to open, that means you faced liquidity issues. If you were facing liquidity issues at the time of the issue, assets were not one-to-one.
So there was not a liquidity issue. It was just, there was a conversion issue that was going through the bank.
In terms of the credibility of Binance, you disclosed that Binance holds about $60 billion of crypto assets. But thus far, you haven't disclosed your liabilities. And I wonder why that is and whether you will.
Andrew mentions the transparency in assets, but not liabilities. Liabilities would show the amount owed back to Binance customers. Customer crypto liabilities must equal customer crypto assets if they are being held one-to-one. In case you haven't watched my last video, go do it. Liability is an amount owed back to whomever it was borrowed from. On a balance sheet, an increase in liabilities also increases assets, since you are temporarily holding wealth. CZ not being able to honestly disclose all of his liabilities is a red flag, because now we can't know for sure that the assets are one-to-one. The information is hidden at the end of the day.
Yeah, so we are working with firms to do the audited financials, liabilities, etc. Very simply, Binance does not owe people money. Binance does not have loans from other companies, from other funds. We just don't have it.
What the hell? If Binance doesn't owe money to anybody, then the only liabilities they should have is customer crypto, right? If Binance doesn't owe anybody any money, then what hard work is there to do for the Big Four firms? A Big Four firm pertains to KPMG, EY, Deloitte, and PwC. These are accounting firms that inspect claimed balances and make sure that they are being presented honestly. This is called an audit. In case you're having trouble visualizing how sus CZ sounds right now, let's go over the accounting equation. Assets are equal to liabilities plus stockholders' equity. We've been over assets and liabilities already, but we have not been over equity so far. Just for the simplicity of this example, we will not be including equity, also because there was no mention of it throughout the interview. We've been over customer crypto assets already, which must be equal to customer crypto liabilities if you're promising one-to-one liquidity. The issue with that is that CZ is saying that he doesn't owe anyone money. So the only place that he could draw currency from in order to make investments that the bank has is from his customer crypto assets, because where else? The imbalance of crypto liabilities and assets is what affects liquidity. So when you promise one-to-one at all times, you have to explain this to us, which he He's trying to hide because he's hiding the liability amount from auditors. They don't even want to work with him. Let's cut all the fluffiness and get straight to it, all right? If we are struggling to disclose liabilities, let's get one of the 4 biggest accounting firms to help you out, right?
But audits don't reveal every problem. So,
no, but an audit from a Big Four auditor would reveal that, CZ. If you could get a Big Four auditor to say that, if you're saying that some of them don't want to work with you, that raises questions too. They don't want to work with you because you don't have the files and the data that would make them feel comfortable signing off and giving that stamp of approval?
Actually, many of them don't even know how to audit crypto exchanges. They don't really when they.
Wow. Okay. Legions of PhDs in accounting just don't know how to do CZ's job.
Does Coinbase, CZ, Coinbase has a Big Four. Coinbase has a Big Four auditor?
Actually, I don't look at Coinbase. We don't really look at
I think so, though.
I don't know the details.
So they understand it well enough.
Deloitte is the auditor for Coinbase.
If you are watching this video, it was recommended to you because you were interested in finance. If you are interested in finance, you have seen a Coinbase ad. If you haven't seen a Coinbase ad, you live under a rock. You Patrick Star looking. Coinbase is a crypto wallet. Coinbase has a Big Four firm that goes by the name Deloitte. My current professor worked there, actually. If Deloitte can audit Coinbase, then surely CZ's issues should be solved, right? We can do your liabilities now. Do you remember the $2.1 billion that I mentioned in the beginning of the video?
Would you be able to handle it if somebody asked you for $2.1 billion back? Would that be okay? Would you be able to still withstand things?
We're financially okay.
Including you have $2.1 billion to give away. If somebody came to claw that back, you'd still be fine?
We'll let the lawyers handle it. We are financially strong.
You cannot put "we are financially okay" on a balance sheet. Why would a man resort to "we are financially okay" instead of getting an audit? Why would a man go from "we are financially okay" to involving lawyers? What I am trying to ask is, why is telling the truth so difficult?
It definitely led to the disclosure that there had been money that was taken, but that disclosure raises lots of questions about firms like yours. Have you done the same? Has there ever been commingled funds? Have you ever taken any of the clients' funds and done anything with them? And again, why should we believe you? Because Sam Bankman-Fried told everybody, no, that hasn't happened. And he tweeted a lot of the same stuff that you've been tweeting in recent days, which I think gets back to this idea of show me the money.
Yeah, so let's get back to show me the money part. So Calvin omitted the fact that there's no records.
Our friend here skipped the entire concern she had about the treatment of client assets. She asked him if he was commingling funds like someone we know, and he couldn't even say no. CZ, you cannot say you don't owe anyone money. You owe your customers. If you don't owe anyone money, why is getting your liabilities presented such a process then? Why work with auditors if they don't know how to audit a crypto business? Shout out to the YouTuber, Meet Kevin, for shining a light on this interview. And thank you for watching all the way until the end. I really do appreciate it. Please leave a like or a dislike for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe.